Hello, welcome to Shad Life. I am here at Theater Worth with my new Haro Saguaro. Um, I saw the specs on this bike in size small, which has that 420 millimeters of reach that I like, and realized that only in the size small do they do a mixed wheel on this bike. So they've got a 27.5 in the rear and a 29 up front. Once you get to the medium, they go to 29 front and rear. One thing that Haro does do, and you might, if you look at this bike, and it's hard, maybe not as easy to tell in the video, but it probably looks like the front end is super long and the dimensions look a little weird. But the reality is the front end is normal. And this is a 418 millimeter chainstay. One thing Haro does is as the front end gets longer, as their sizes go up, they lengthen the rear end along with it. I love it when bike companies do that. That's the way to do it. It makes sense that as a rider gets taller, the back end should also get longer when the front end gets longer. As where most bike companies, the rear end is the same throughout their whole size range, and they just get longer in the front. So 418 millimeters is really short, and I'm really stoked to try it. And I'll be honest with you, as of right now, I haven't ridden this bike except for down the street to kind of bed in the brakes a little bit before I rode it. And I did try a couple manuals on it, so the front end does come up a lot easier, but I haven't ridden it on the trail yet, and I have no idea what my opinion is going to be riding this on the trail, and even whether or not I'm going to like it. I can almost guarantee you I'd like it for jumping, but let's see what it's like here at Theater Worth. I do these rides at Theater Worth with all these different bikes because it's a consistent place that I can ride and get a feel for a bike. If I went to different trails all the time, I feel like I wouldn't be able to get that consistency. So we are again by the highway, so it's kind of loud. So I'm gonna go ahead and get on this bad boy and start riding. Let's do it. So my immediate assumption with this bike is that the front wheel is going to want to come off the ground when I'm climbing. Whether that's reality or not, I don't know. But we got some climbs right here. Oh, seem to do that just fine. Now I have to remember the brakes aren't fully bedded in yet. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the spec on this bike. Now that I've been riding it for a short distance, this has the Marzocchi Bomber Z2. The feel of this fork is amazing. Keep in mind, this is like getting a budget Fox shock. It's Fox bought Marzocchi out, so the internals are all Fox, and they cost a lot less, so they're really good forks. I love the braille because you actually can feel the difference when you move this. And yeah, it is just a really good fork. 140 millimeters. These tires I don't know anything about. I haven't ridden Kenda tires for a long time. I used to run the small block 8s and the slant 6 way back in the day, but other brands have gotten way better than those, and now we're back to Kenda with some new designs. Looks fairly familiar though. basically copying what everybody else is doing. Pinner Pro on the front. And then the Navigal has actually been around a long time, and it used to be like kind of one of the cutting edge tires in its day. This is the Navigal 2 apparently. And so they've redesigned it some. And I don't know what ATC is, but one of the things I do notice is that they don't feel quite as soft on the sides. I don't even know if it's a dual compound tire. Maybe that's what ATC means. It does feel a little softer on the sides and firmer in the top. And if that's the case, it does have the little siping things and stuff. They probably should perform pretty good. So we'll see how they perform. NX drivetrain. One of the things with NX is kind of wild. Is like, yeah, it's heavier and so on, but it performs really good. Like, it shifts really nicely and it just performs. So it's not the lightest drivetrain out there, but it performs. And then you have the, I believe it's still an NX shifter. Yep, I see it there. And then the brakes on this bike. So these are the Slate, what are they, Evo Slate Evos, TRP brakes. Well, I just got a pair of their, what are they, DHR brakes or whatever on my Smoky. These feel almost identical. 4-piston brake. I don't know really what the differences are between those, but the Evo is a higher end, or not the Evo, but the DHR one is their higher end brake, or their top of the line brake. So far they feel great. They're not fully bedded in yet, but I have a feeling they'll do just as well. I don't know what brand bars, stem, probably some generic Haro no name brand. Usually that's how you get into the good price range. Transex dropper, they are just always reliable and good. WTB rims. Not sure on the hubs. The website says there's machined like 6 bearing, whatever. The cassette sounds really good and has a good number of engagements, and so on. So standard WTB Volt saddle, always comfortable. I don't know what these grips are, but they're really comfortable. Oh, they're WTB. Oh yeah, they feel really good. So yep, pretty standard setup. And the color, well, you can post in the comments what you think about the color. I actually think this is a pretty cool color. I don't know if I should trust these tires or not yet. I think the brake levers need to come in. Thankfully they got a nice little adjuster dial. There's a little pop out of the sperm I like to do. Try it. Yep, cool. Didn't take that as full on fast as I would normally do, just because I'm not as familiar with this bike, but it felt pretty good. Let me get these brake levers adjusted and we'll continue. So the nice thing about these brakes, even though they're not the top of the line model, they do have that like reach adjust dial that you can just twist and get your levers right where you want them. And I like that, because now I don't have to like reach my hand like on the grips to pull the levers. I can just reach and grab them for a nice one finger braking, which is good because we're about to hit some downhill. Wow, it feels pretty good. Like, one of the keys in this kind of stuff, you want to be able to weight the front wheel, so you got to be centered. Pushing a little too fast in that one. Oh, I can hear cables rattling inside the tubes. The internal routing, it's not loud, but you can kind of hear them rattling in there. So if you've been following my channel for a few years, you might remember when I had the steel Esker Hayduke and I set it up as a mullet or MX build with a 27.5 rear and a 29 front. The difference here is that this frame is actually designed around this mixed wheel size versus the Esker Hayduke. When I put the 27.5 on the rear and the 29 on the front, the frame it's designed to have wheels of the same size, so that messed with the geometry. It slackened the head tube, it raised the bottom bracket, and so on. So in this case, the geometry that is on this bike as it is what Haro wants it to be, or what they set it out to be. And so that's the difference between having a mixed wheel size bike that is set up to be mixed wheel size versus just throwing either a smaller wheel on the rear if you have a 29-inch bike, or a bigger wheel on the front if you have a 27.5 bike, right? So it's interesting being able to ride a frame, a bike that's actually designed around these mixed wheels. A lot of full suspension bikes nowadays, they'll have a flip chip, so if you go from 29 to 27.5 in the rear, you can just flip that chip and it should keep the geometry relatively the same. And that's kind of neat. With a hardtail, you can't do that, so you just you know, hopefully the manufacturer built it the way they wanted it to be, and that's what Haro did here. So I couldn't really put a 29-inch wheel on the back of this bike. I don't think there's room for it. I could run dual 27.5s, but running a 29 back here probably wouldn't have room. Looks like you could get away with a pretty fat tire though. You could probably go 2.6. This is a 2.4, so cool. So just wanted to specify that about the frame. All right, let's get back on the trail. So the thing that I expected is not the case. The front wheel doesn't want to come up off the ground on me when I'm doing climbs. And I've done a couple of steeper, more punchy climbs. It hasn't happened yet, but I was kind of expecting it to. Climbs really good actually, but I feel like most hardtails climb really good. Wow. Yep. Yeah. Whew. All right, through the dump loop. This is always a good testing ground for bikes. The brakes are starting to get bedded in now, so that's a good thing. Okay, take the left one. Go up this, hop over, shoot the gap right there, and ride the skinny at the end. Yeah. Yeah. One thing I am noticing is this bike doesn't feel short in the front. It feels kind of long. And I don't know if it's just a feeling because of just the geometry, or if the reach in their geometry chart is inaccurate or what. But I'll remeasure just to be sure. Alright, here's that rock armor climb. I've been very successful on this lately. See how this bike does. Take this outside one. Perfect. Absolutely spot on. Right up it. Nice. Nice. This is tight, narrow, single track right here. It's a real deal. Oh, and these rocks. So, these rocks are a good test for the tires. They seem to have decent traction, but they're not like super grippy on the rocks. Alright, this bridge thing up ahead. And the skinny. The shorter wheelbase should help. Every time I clean this feature, I am always so stoked because this is hard. So you get right up here, you got to have your front tire to the outside there or you'll slip off from the inside. Then you got to bring your front tire out here so your back tire tracks and gets onto that. And a lot of times it'll fall off to the inside if you're not wide enough here, right? So after getting through this little snake part, which in and of itself is a challenge, once you get here, it's just a matter of, you know, because these turns aren't very sharp, it's just a matter of like staying on and staying relatively centered. Then you get here, and it's pretty narrow. I mean, yeah, pretty narrow. And then you get here, and then you have, you know, what we used to call a mustache. I don't know if you still call it, but kind of rollers in the skinny, and then you drop off the end. So these rollers actually kind of add to this feature and make it really fun. And there's the Haro. I'm having a lot of fun on that bike. if I were to be honest. Wow, Spike climbs like a goat. I don't know what it is, if it's the smaller diameter rear wheel. It has a super stiff frame, which I'll talk about later. So it might just be that much more direct power. Yeah, cool. All right, final downhill. Yeah. Woo. Oh, overshot. Oh, this bike likes to pop. Oh yeah, overshot that one too. Easy to overshoot when the front end comes right up. Oh shoot. Didn't get to hit that last one. Hiker with a dog right on the fastest trail in all of these woods. Okay, so there you have it. Haro Saguaro. This particular one, size small, so it's MX build. There's something to be said about this mixed wheel size thing. It climbed really well, and I was kind of surprised, but if you think about how compact this rear end is, the fact you got a smaller diameter wheel, which gives you better acceleration, marginally lighter weight, and this frame is really stiff. So stiffness is great for responsiveness, so like it just immediately responds to everything I want it to do. As far as like if you were gonna do like a long epic ride, it's gonna be a little less comfortable. So keep that in mind. Like, this is a play bike in my opinion. I would actually like to call this like a BMXers or dirt jumpers mountain bike, because it allows you to still have that, you know, quick responsive feel while still being able to do everything else that a regular mountain bike can do. So I really like it. It's very different. If I was to compare it to the Esker Smoky, which is the bike closest to this, well, the Esker Smoky has a 440 rear end on it. It's steel, so it does have that ride compliance to it. It's, you know, over the bumps, it's a little smoother or whatever. At first, I kind of was like, oh, this bike feels kind of harsh. But once I got used to it, it didn't feel harsh to me. So it was mainly that my brain going, well, I'm so used to riding either full suspension or steel or titanium in my case. And this is aluminum with a pretty stiff rear end. So just if you like bikes that have a lot of compliance and the frame takes out a lot of that harshness, this one might not be for you. But me, once I got used to it, it did not bother me. I liked it because it was super responsive. And yeah, it's impressive. I like it. This might be a keeper. I always say that, and then, you know, even if I keep a bike for 2 years or 3 years, I always end up moving on to something else. Well, here we go again. In case you don't know, Minneapolis, our Theodore Wirth is in Minneapolis proper. It's in a major metropolitan area. It's a major highway right over there. And of course, you're going to have emergency vehicles every once in a while. That was a fire truck. But back to the Haro. It's a sweet ride. Just really digging it. Yeah, there'll be more on this bike. I am going to Bentonville in a couple of days. The weather looks hot, but it looks dry. Hopefully we have good weather so we can ride a lot. I believe this bike will go with me. I was kind of contemplating whether I wanted to bring the Smoky or this bike. Post in the comments what you would rather see, but I'm thinking this bike because I feel like I want to go ride the rail yard, and this bike would shred at the rail yard. And then I'm going to bring my Canyon Spec 125. That's a given. But what hardtail I bring? Probably going to be this one now that I rode it and really like it. Appreciate your support for my channel. Please like and subscribe.